Is she nuts? I think my mom is crazy or narcissistic. For example, yesterday she was explaining something to me and I didn't understand what she was saying, and I tried to ask her a question but she wouldn't let me, and instead she reiterated what she said and took a long time doing it, and I still didn't understand, and I tried to ask a question again and she spent more time reiterating, getting more upset, as she was spending more time not accomplishing a task, and she wouldn't let me ask anything. By the time she was able to let me ask a question, I was so distraught that I wasn't able to think straight, and she was yelling at me and yelling that I was playing stupid. Later, I tried to be vulnerable again and tell her that I was upset with her because I would tell her that I didn't understand. I need a chance to speak and ask a question, and it not be a dramatic thing where I suddenly get a chance to ask a question and all the attention is on me. Just a calm, non-escalatory question, and she tells me that the reason why I'm upset with her is because I'm guilty for lying to her, and I'm projecting that guilt as anger towards her. Dark54G commented, "This kind of behavior typically means that she cannot explain it any other way, that she's limited understanding herself. I've seen this many times as a trainer for technologies and similar. It really is the sign of somebody who doesn't have an expansive knowledge of this topic, so they will reiterate using the exact same words in the exact same example, and then when they get frustrated that you still don't understand, they cannot explain another way. My advice? Ask someone else." Our next story is, "My mother is mad at me because I don't want to talk to her." So it's basically what the title says. I'm 21, I just got a new job, and I'm looking to move out in the next 6 months. God willing, everything goes to plan. But anyways, my mother has stated in the past that she doesn't want to work and that she wants someone to take care of her. She doesn't care if it's me, my uncle, or a boyfriend. She just wants someone to always do everything for her. I'm sick of it, because every time I've gotten a job in the past, she's wanted my money for her things. The main thing that sticks out to me was when I got my first job at 15. After I got paid my first check, she demanded I paid for her cigarettes, and when I said I wasn't going to, she started an argument with me in the car and wouldn't stop until I gave her my debit card. I just got a new job as a STN, which, if you don't know, is a state-tested nursing agent. I have a license to do nursing care in my state. I have orientation for this job on Wednesday, but the thing that I'm writing this about is what just happened. She came into my room and asked me if I thought there was mold, and I said that I don't know. I've never given it much thought if there was or not. She then told me, "You don't think about anything," then shut my door and left and called my uncle and told him this. Then she started saying how I only care about my computer. I do Twitch and YouTube on the side to earn extra money, so that's why I'm on my computer. She then started saying the dog we have is annoying and that she wants to put our perfectly healthy dog down just because she doesn't take the dog outside, and then blames it on me when the dog poops and pees in the house. She acts like she's always mad at me because I don't want to talk to her, because if I tell her what I'm really thinking about a lot of situations, it'll cause a huge blow-up argument. So I just ignore it and don't say anything. I just don't know if I'm the one in the wrong here. I should also preface that according to my godmother and both of my uncles, she's a diagnosed bipolar and refuses to take her meds. I also think she's a narcissist because she wants everyone and everything to cater to her wants and needs. BK Worm Trisha replied, "Please ask your godmother, uncle, other relatives if you can move in with them now with a move-out day of 6 months to your own apartment, because your mother is taking your money, threatening to unalive the dog, and scaring you with her off-the-wall behavior." Positive Do 3562 responded, "It might be even sooner that I move out. It depends on my regular job and my job with real estate, since I can make money very quickly with the real estate job. I just paid 6 months since I'm pretty positive by then I'll be on my own, since I just have to get the money to pay for my real estate exam. Then once I do that, I'll be making around 5K to 10K per month, if not more depending on the housing market." Our next story is, "My parents won't give me any financial support even though they're legally obliged to do so. Story and asking for advice." Hi everyone, so before anyone thinks I'm spoiled, I'm not. I don't want their money anymore, but God do I desperately need it. So I, 18-year-old male, moved out about a year ago. I was already 18, to my boyfriend's place. I didn't legally move out because the apartment is a one-bedroom one, and since it is state-funded, he's not allowed to even have anyone sleep over. Yet here I am, and nobody has ever noticed, even though there's regular control, if he can live on his own. He can. He's diabetic, not dumb. Now, here's where it gets tricky. One could argue that I could simply live with my parents, but I moved to become an actor in one of Germany's biggest cities, and my parents live an 8-hour train ride away. Until my education started, my mom supported me with €5 a day to buy food. €35 a week doesn't get you very far in terms of groceries, but it was better than nothing. But when school started, my mom stopped paying, and I was like, why on earth would you do that? And she just told me good luck and that I had to finally find an apartment and move out for good. How am I supposed to do that without money? And my education was too time-consuming to have a decent job because some days started at 8 a.m., some at 12 p.m., and the last train home was at midnight, but my prior job in the big city, yes, I already had a job there, was in shifts, and the only possible shift for me was 5 p.m. to 12 a.m., so it wasn't possible for me to keep working there. And if you know big cities, you know how exhausting the job hunt can be. Now to the even bigger problem. Since I was an acting student, my mother prided herself in bragging about me constantly, even though she had almost nothing to do with me at that point, because she simply relied on my boyfriend's mom to help us financially, even though our moms never met or talked or anything. My mom just relies on me getting by somehow and then takes the credit in her son being oh so successful. It went to the point where she demanded I come home for Christmas, and I didn't have enough money for the train ticket and food, so I had to decide. She went off about how I'm a failure and that she would not pay or even lend the €49. I even suggested she made it my only Christmas present because I just wanted to see my brothers and friend, but she denied. She then had my stepfather pay for it even though he already paid for my school. School fees is the biggest topic in this story. We have €250 state-given child support for every child and young adult who's in education. Those €250 and my stepfather's €250 a month paid my school tuition. Now, here's the catch. My stepfather isn't legally obliged to pay me even a single cent. My mom is though, and she doesn't. Well, that's not true. For every person registered in your house, you have to pay around €60 a year for trash. Yes, you heard that right, €60 a year. That's the only additional cost of having someone legally not actually living with you. And that's the money my mom told me is the money she doesn't want to spend on me and the reason she wants me to fully move out so bad. Spoiler alert, if finding a job here is hard, guess what it's like to look for an apartment? My mom never told me it was about the trash money. I don't have much knowledge in that field, unsurprising for an 18-year-old, and she only made vague statements about having to pay money since I'm legally still registered there. I honestly thought we were talking about a way higher sum, but I'm not worth a yearly €60 fee for the trash men to collect my non-existent trash. They made that payment once since I moved out last April. Once! Also, my school kicked me out because I had too many sick absent days. Sucks. And now the government's child support is no longer coming in. My mom basically forced my stepfather to stop paying the rest of the school tuition and even supporting me financially at all. In my contract, there's a clause that forces me to pay the school tuition for the current and next semester even if I quit or they kick me out. So now I'm sitting here knowing that within the next 7 months this payment needs to be made. I will accumulate a total debt of €3,500. Yay! I can't even afford groceries right now and my parents are legally obliged to pay me, but since my mom is my only legal parent, she's the one who has to pay. I really don't want to take this to court, but she prides herself in having 3 wonderful sons and hasn't given a single crap about me ever since I graduated. She posts me on her social media with, "Oh, so proud," and that's all. As long as she can tell her friends and colleagues how goofy her children are, she does enough in her opinion. Like, girl, I don't need the world to know that her kids accomplish good things or are special. I need to be able to afford to live. And yes, I can go to work, and yes, I will do that, and I'm still actively looking for jobs, but that doesn't take away her obligation to support me. I don't know, do you guys think I could take this to family court and win, or what should I do? Katrina Wren replied, "It's a difficult situation. Your mother is a cow, sorry, but at the same time, you're technically an adult and you should at one point start to live on your own resources and manage the adult world. I have a son who's also an adult now, and I don't think it would be even logical to not support him anymore, but at the same time, I don't plan to continue supporting him forever after he starts his own life away from home. There's a period for him to settle and find ways to support himself, but he can't really expect it to be years or so." Our next story is, restrictive parents care too much about location of first job, 21-year-old male after college. One piece of annoying and honestly stupid advice my parents have given me throughout college is that the location of my internships and first job after college should be a priority. For context, I'm from the suburbs of Massachusetts and will be working in big tech, NYC, after I graduate from college this spring. This is at arguably the most prestigious company in the field. Note, I'll use terms like mid-tier company and top company, not to sound pretentious, but just to give context on the situation. Throughout college, my parents would insist that I find jobs in Massachusetts. The only reason they're fine with most places on the East Coast is because it's not that far from home. However, if it was something like California, they see that as a significant negative. Honestly, although I've never really had too much of a problem with location of my internships and job, this advice affected my mentality throughout college. Freshman and sophomore year, instead of applying anywhere and everywhere, I would not apply to internships far away because I was subconsciously thinking of what would please my parents. Even junior year, I applied to internships out of state, but if asked what I prefer, I would always mention East Coast and even had the mindset that a job in Massachusetts would be ideal. I even told a recruiter in an interview once that location was a top priority because I prefer to be close to my family, even though this was really only because of my parents. For my junior year internship, all my internship offers were out of state, so it didn't matter. My internship was at a top company. However, I think since I wasn't used to advocating for myself against my parents, if I had gotten an internship at a less recognized company in Massachusetts, my parents might have convinced me to take the latter internship because of location, even though the former was much better for my career. I know this because sophomore year, I worked at a good defense contractor, which was very good for a sophomore internship. However, the internship is definitely not as good as a big tech internship for junior summer. When I got an offer at a big tech company, my dad suggested that I try to see if I can get a better offer at the defense contractor. Although you can negotiate, it's clear that the defense contractor can't compete with the big tech company in terms of salary, and my dad knows that. And internship salary wasn't the thing that mattered, it was new grad salary. And although the contractor provides a good salary for new grad, the big tech company provides a much better salary, even accounting for cost of living. The only reason my parents were even suggesting to still consider the contractor is purely because of location, which is terrible advice. Also, it wasn't even just about salary. The specific big tech companies I got offers from are better for career growth than just the defense contractor. The only thing that was better about the contractor was location, which I don't think is crucial in most cases for a new grad. It's really only now that I realize the location of the first job shouldn't be the main priority, especially if it's in a big tech hub like New York or Cali. If the only option at my company was to work in Cali, I would have still advocated against my parents to take it over a worse offer in a close location, even if the latter offer was still decent. My parents honestly expect me to sacrifice what's optimal for my early career for their comfort and me being close to home, which is honestly stupid. When I have a conversation about this subject with my parents, their argument will be, what if there were a job that pays the same in Massachusetts? A hypothetical job in Mass for new grads that pays similarly as to the top company I'll be working at doesn't even exist in the first place. There are obviously times where it makes sense to make these sacrifices, like if you have kids and a family, but I'm literally a college grad. I don't understand how my parents think it should be a priority. Obviously, I think it's reasonable to make it a consideration if you have multiple competing offers in your hand, but making it a majority as a college senior searching for jobs is completely ridiculous, and the fact that my parents keep insisting is honestly annoying. I'm glad I ended up muting this advice while job hunting later in college because it honestly could have damaged my early career. This may sound like a rant, but I'm wondering if anyone has had a similar experience and how you handled or would have handled this situation. Malicious_blue3 responded, "People seem unsympathetic to your situation at hand and don't seem to be giving actionable advice, so I'll take a shot at it. Identify areas in your life where your parents' influence is inappropriate. You've already identified, and it's a big one. Identify other, smaller areas that could use boundaries and start drawing lines. If they have access to your bank account, create your own. If they have location on your phone, remove them. If they restrict who you see or try to, ignore them. Just get into the habit of drawing boundaries and sticking to them. When it comes to relocating, get a sense what to expect. It's not enough to just move across the country. What relocation packages are included in the offer? Are you expected to move yourself? Can you cover that cost? What's the local cost of living like compared to salary? You're in Massachusetts, so cost of living shouldn't be a surprise. Another thing to consider is time off. Your parents want you close. Are you going to accept a job that will make it impossible to come back for visits? For what it's worth, this Reddit stranger agrees with you. Prioritizing location is not the best career move. You can't join the army and never expect to move, for example. Some careers are just more mobile, and you may find yourself being a seasoned relocator after a while. And you may find yourself returning to Massachusetts. First priority in your career is you, not your parents. Our next story is, my mom broke my phone over me looking for a youth group center in my area. Hi, I'm typing this from a computer since I no longer have my phone. I was looking for a youth group to go to, mostly to get out more, talk more, and have fun with people who understand me. I found a LGBT youth group in my area and put it in my bookmarks. This was late at night, so I decided to just turn it off, plug it in, and go to bed. I guess my mom checked my phone early that morning, before she went to work, since when I woke up, she was sitting in my office chair just kind of looking at me. I could tell she wasn't happy at all. When I asked her what was wrong, she opened my phone to the youth group and slammed it on my desk. It wasn't broken yet, but it had jolted me awake. I tried to explain to her why I wanted to join, said that I wanted to get out more, learn some more things, make some more friends, but she didn't listen. She was saying that I just wanted to join for the gay crap and that I wanted to rebel against her. Going on and on about how I was being indoctrinated and that if I just went to insert church's name, I would be happier. For more context, I didn't want to be in that church group for multiple reasons. I went to that church group years ago when I was 9, and most of it was them just getting mad at me for nothing, saying I was being rude, not listening, etc. I did listen and wrote down what I needed to, since there was a workbook they would give us. It felt like they would just get me in trouble just to get me in trouble. I had asked to go somewhere else years ago, but my parents didn't take me out of it until I was 11. Now they want to send me back, even though they know how miserable I was last time. I had to explain why I didn't want to go again, but she got mad and said, "Fine, you want to keep watching that confusing nonsense? Then you won't have a phone to watch it on then." She was going to take off with my phone, but I just grabbed it out of instinct since I need that phone to communicate with my teachers, plus I use it for my photography class. If I didn't have it, then my grades would drop badly since I have to find another way to take pictures. My mom's reaction to this was to throw my phone onto the floor and then step on it with her shoes multiple times like it was on fire or something. So now I have no phone. Interesting start to the new year, I guess. CAD9057 responded, "Explain to your teachers that you can't complete some of your work or communicate with them because your phone is broken. Maybe they'll call her to tell her that you might fail some classes without it. In the meantime, do join those groups. At least now she has no way to track you or contact you while you're out and about. And well, since the time is on your phone and you don't have a phone, it's not your fault if you're late. Better still embrace your lack of phone. They can't find you if you don't have your tracking device with you, now can they? They can't stalk what you're looking at or reading if they have no device to see what you're looking up. You can embrace true freedom." Our next story is, "Don't want to run into my ndad." So I've recommended some of my providers to my in-fam, such as my dad and mom. I've been no contact for about a couple years, but I'm not very far from them. In fact, I frequently visit the city they live in to run certain errands. Risky, I know. So I had not seen my usual eye doctor in years, but I paid her a visit after an eye irritation. Now she's inquiring about my dad because she remembers me walking into the office more than a few years ago for an appointment while he was simultaneously scheduled for an appointment. This was before going on contact. She even stated that he's due for a visit. How do I tell her not to share my whereabouts with him? Don't want to seem weird or full of baggage. Not a robot, Deaf a Cyborg responded. If you're in the US, the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, is in place. Go to your appointment, then you tell the provider straight out, I need you to know that I'm not in contact with my family and have no desire to be. HIPAA prohibits you from giving them any information about me and vice versa. Do not disclose that I'm a patient here, and I will forget that you mentioned the fact that my NF father is due for an appointment, as that's also a HIPAA violation. Do you understand what I'm asking you to do? Don't worry about seeming weird. You went no contact for a reason. She does not need to know that reason. It's your business. She's required to be professional and to protect her patient's privacy. Our next story is, I'm a mistake and only good for child support in my mother's eyes. Not sure if it's gonna apply here, but it's one parent, not both. Buckle up, it's gonna be a long one. So like I said, I was an accident. The doctor told my mother she'll never have kids. Then I came along. My dad was young, she was 6-ish years older than him. We'll leave it at that. After I was born, she actually had something to do with me. That was until she met her now current husband. She tried to tell me he was my biological dad and kept pressuring me at 2 years old that he was in fact my father. When at the same time my bio dad had visitation every other weekend, she claimed he was just a friend. He eventually told me my mother was livid. 2 years later, she had another kid, my half-brother, and that's when her manipulation really kicked off. At 4 years old, I was changing diapers, getting my brother dressed, even waking up in the middle of the night when he cried to make him bottles. Potty training, formula, diaper changing, etc. were up to me. She told me that this was normal and that older brothers are supposed to set an example. Meanwhile, I was off and on seeing my dad every other weekend. She hated it and would tell me that he wasn't coming to pick me up or that he didn't care, when in reality, he'd call to ask to have me on his weekend and she would flat out say no, even going as far as to take me to a meetup spot that was more of a drive for my dad than it was for her, just to prove to me that he wasn't coming. This continued for several years. I'd take care of my brother, started doing small chores that led to full-on cleaning the house, and then she got pregnant again and the cycle restarted. My second brother wasn't so bad, not as bad as my first, but I hate to say that I started to loathe them both. While they had brand new shoes, clothes, etc., I got hand-me-downs and wore shoes that the soles were falling apart. I literally had to duct tape them together just so that way I could walk in them. There's more in the in-between, but if I continued with the physical and mental abuse this woman caused me, this post would be longer than it's going to be. I'll just fast forward to when I was 13, about to be 14, when I finally had enough. At this time, I had swapped custody between my bio mother and my dad because of issues my mother causes, such as moving out of state, which at the time was against court order, and my dad made a mistake, which had been resolved by this point, and nobody's perfect. At the time, I was in homeschool, failing every class because my public school had sent me to the hospital. Because although she was a stay-at-home mother, she was unreachable and it was assumed that I had gone to school with appendicitis. I attempted to tell her before I went to school that I didn't feel good, but she said I was faking it, resulting in me staying in the hospital for 8 hours by myself until I convinced the nurse and doctor to contact my school counselor so I could go home, since I just had swelling in my lymph nodes. Can't spell the actual word. I had my eyes open by this point, and I finally told my dad I wanted to come home and started a fight with my bio mother cause I had enough. She would then call my dad and ask, "Do you freaking want him?" as if I was just property to her. Needless to say, yes, he did, and after a long, awkward 2 weeks, I was shipped on a plane headed towards east. Dad had moved states too, as the state we were originally from is, well, dumb on the west of the country. After a long story, to make it short, I came to where I call home. Got my grades up and graduated. My dad remarried to this awesome woman that, although is my stepmother, I just call her mom. And the bio? Well, no one has heard anything more than a happy, insert special day here, and eventually nothing at all, and now after 10 years, I say this to say I'm doing better. No, it wasn't they all ride into the sunset story, cause those don't exist. We had our ups and downs as any normal person would, but overall way better than the abuse I was in. I realized recently that I may have residual trauma when an innocent event made me flinch and take me back to when I was that kid that had to bow before the highness herself. So I started therapy, and after talking to a friend, they said maybe I should post it here. There is a lot more abuse that happened to me as a child, and I may share my story and explain, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. I apologize for my story being long and maybe not making sense in places, but I want to end this with a message that I have learned from this. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, and no matter what you go through, you'll always find a way to grow and strengthen yourself even when you feel weak. After all, even black sheep's wool is found useful in other aspects. Seaberry145 responded, "I'm extremely sorry to hear that you were forced to endure all this. No human being should have the burden of going through all this unfair immorality of parents and launching horrible ad hominem attacks on their kids, especially in minor cases, such as in hundreds of thousands of American divorcees. The mother usually gets away with claiming tons and tons of child support from the father, or in some cases, whichever parent holds the most monetary income, and this eventually leads to controversial uprising between family members in which nobody should endure. Therefore, I would find it best to bring yourself far away from the emotional contusions that occurred. You should continue to concentrate on the modus operandi and what brought you to this current moment. Just focus primarily on the process of healing, because you, sir, are doing a splendid job of keeping yourself in check. Continue making everyone proud, buddy."